In this video I'm going to talk about how to remove the exhaust manifolds with the catalytic converters from the car. Things that you'll need to do before you get to this stage of pulling these off. The exhaust at the back will need to be removed. Also underneath all of this is the diagonal strut at the rear of the car. They will need to be removed as well. I'll put links to videos of how to do that in the description below. And then once you've got that, then what you first need to do is disconnect the oxygen sensors. Now in the workshop manual it talks about removing these, and getting these things out with them in the car is a real pain. So I definitely would not do it. It's far simpler to just take the whole thing out with it. So there are the two connections at the front on each side that are held in by clips. You'll need to remove those from the clips and just disconnect those. If you are interested in more detail on that, have a look at the oxygen sensor video that I made. Again, I'll put a link in the description for that, but enough said. When you put these in, take notice because these sort of get folded back and forth over each other, and they're different left and right, so take a good note of that. And then to disconnect at the front of each valve cover, there's a single screw connection that holds onto that, so that's going to be the upper forward part of the valve cover. Then there'll be a number of clips, and it's a little bit different on each side. These will be clipped into, there's a plastic railing that sits along the top of the head on each side. That'll be folded into that, so remove it from that. On the left hand side there's this clip up here. This is a bit difficult to get access to. You'll have to get a big screwdriver and just pull that out. That's just a Christmas tree clip. On the other side here there's a Christmas tree clip there, as well as another one that holds both. It sort of sticks into the side of the head. And then once you get that, they can just come loose and just get folded down the side. From there are 9 screws that go around the manifold attachment points, as well as a single one in here. Ones that go in there look like that, with this funny shaped bolt. The one that goes into here is just a standard M8 E12 Torx. I'll show you in a moment exactly what I think is the best way to do it, but enough I'd remove most of the screws, except just leave one in here, leave that one in there, and then remove those two. This isn't very heavy, and then you can just lower the thing down. Be aware that the gasket will just slide straight out. This is at a funny angle and it'll just want to slide to the inside and fall out. I reckon you quite happily reuse these. I'll show you what I'm going to do that in a moment. But I would be careful with that. Make sure that you grab hold of that so it doesn't hit the ground, maybe get bent or something like that if you plan to reuse it. In addition to that, there are the gaskets here that would be sitting on the end there. They would already be loose and you'd be able to remove those. Again, quite happily reuse those as long as everything's cleaned up and it hasn't been damaged. For install, one of the hardest parts of this is as you're lifting it is this sliding off. The problem is, as you can see with the gasket, there's a tab there that sticks up into a void. There's these sort of rectangle shaped voids in the head that goes up into. You don't want to bend that, but also we need to keep the screw holes aligned, which is hard. So what I've done, which worked really well, I've just got some Eni paste, just put a couple of dobs in there like that, and that just sticks it to it, and that's just going to stay there. You may want to consider putting some Eni paste on these as well. The book talks about replacing these, but to be honest, these look like they're brand new, so I wouldn't replace that. They're not torque to yield or anything like that, so I would quite happily be reusing those. But having the gasket stuck on there like that made that far simpler. And then I'll show you the tool that I use just to hold onto it to push up into one of these, as well as that one there. And once you've got that in place, then it's a relatively simple process of pushing it up into place. To get everything ready for install, you need to get all the carbon and everything off this. Firstly, with the gaskets, the way these work is there's a raised ridge around here. If you put some calipers on this, you'll see that that's the two pieces combined. It's about 0.5 millimetre. It's about 0.9 or so. So the raised ridge is about 0.2 or so. So as long as you've got a clean face on both sides, and this is perfectly clean, this should seal quite happily. The best way I've found to get the carbon off is with a tool like this and some brake cleaner. So you just spray it on there, give it a couple of moments to soak, and then this just chipped it off in a heartbeat. So have a go at that, and then once you're done, you should be able to just put your finger over that and feel that it's a really nice smooth surface. Same thing on the connection on the head from the underside. So if these are those 3 holes going into the head, go ahead and spray onto that. However, if you've got a set of valves that are open, obviously you don't want to spray that up into it. So I would just be filling these with rags to start off with, so you can just spray onto there, then remove the rags, and then you can just chip all that off and just check that everything is nice and smooth and clean. Same for this one here and all the connections on the other points of connection. And with this one here, because there are 2 parts to this, what I'm going to do is clean this up, get rid of all the carbon off it, and then just put it in some solvent and get my high pressure air and just blow everything out. Just open this up so everything's nice and clean inside. You can open this up quite happily, and then once you've done that, feel that everything is nice and flat and is going to compress okay, and then you should be able to quite happily use that again. So removal from underneath, once you've got the oxygen sensors disconnected, there are the 9 screws around where it connects to the head, as well as that single screw there. There's a bracket that sits underneath which connects to the head. That can just get left in place, and it's just that single screw there that needs to be removed. These standard hex screws to stay in place because that is the thing that holds on to the exhaust manifold itself, so that all comes out with it. So it's just that single one there. And the way I would suggest to do this is remove all of these screws around here but one. One of these on the outside here is easiest. Leave that one as well. And then once you've got all of those except those 2 removed, then you can hold onto this and remove those last 2 and remove the things. When you're removing these last screws and lowering this thing down, remember that there's going to be a gasket in here. If you plan to reuse that, you don't want that to sort of fall down and maybe get bent, so just be aware of that. Now this isn't going to slide off because I have sort of played around with this a bit, and I have put some NEC's paste on the inside, like I'll talk about in a moment, just to hold it in place for the install, but it will just want to slide straight out, so be ready for that. And there is that gasket there that's obviously stuck to it, but that would just want to slide straight off. For install, once everything's cleaned up and good to go, have the gasket stuck to the top of the intake manifold so it doesn't move, because you don't want that to slide off. The tab on the intake manifold is going to stick into these voids in here, so all the holes need to be lined up so that it doesn't get damaged. Again, why that NEC's paste helps. And then what I find is just actually using a tool like this and actually pushing it up with that so it's installed, and then putting that on there like that and turning, and then putting that one in there is the way I've found probably to be easiest to get this on. And once it's on there like that, now we can go ahead, check the gasket is aligned correctly, and now you can push that up into place and put all the other screws in. Torques for install, this one here takes 23 Newton meters, and all of these around here take 30 Newton meters. There's no prescribed torquing sequence for the exhaust manifold connection up there. I'd just be doing that from the inside out.